I would use a little something to make my slider have more spin or my four seam have more spin, but I don't want my sinker to have more spin or my changeup to have more spin. And I actually felt like I was a more complete and better pitcher without the help of anything. Do pitchers ever vary their spin for less movement to keep batters guessing? They always want maximum movement and focus that they're locking in on. That's an interesting question because subtle deviation of movement is very effective. You don't always want to have the biggest separation between everything. A lot of times it's how long two pitches can stay together before deviating. That's super effective. Like Jacob deGrom's fastball and Jacob deGrom's slider, they tunnel a really long time. So it's not always about maximum separation and just being on one side or the other of that. Sometimes it's about the magic trick of thinking that you're showing them one thing when you're really showing them something else. In terms of low spin pitches, yes, low spin is great because low spin creates drop. Because there's less spin keeping the ball up and resisting gravity, it does also aid your drop. So sometimes when you're trying to throw pitches with drop, like changeups or splits, you want to be low spin. Sinkers as well. This is why the sticky factor used to be interesting back in the day as well. It was like I would use a little something to make my slider have more spin or my four seam have more spin, but I don't want my sinker to have more spin or my changeup to have more spin. So just like everything else in baseball, there's always a give and a take. And I actually felt like I was a more complete and better pitcher without the help of anything. I used to use sunscreen and rosin, but without the help of anything, I actually think it forced me to become a better pitcher. My grips had to make more sense. They had to be more on the seams, things like that. So spin rate's not everything. It's important for certain pitch types so that you can achieve like an incredible ceiling, but it's not everything. How do you get a higher spin rate? That's something that I think a lot of it is unfortunately God-given with the way that your hand, your wrist, and your fingers come through. However, you can train an additional little bit of spin rate by training your pinch grip strength. I don't have any of the stuff here, but I used to do it with like a climbing block. And then you kind of like lay a kettlebell on the end of it and attach it. And you just kind of hang from these two fingers in an isometric contraction. And I would do that all the time. And I felt like not only is that good for spin rate, but also for elbow health. Trevor Bauer has all the best videos on this stuff. Say what you want, but he knows what he's talking about when it comes to pitching and being healthy. So I learned a lot watching him, but also a lot through trial and error. And definitely pinch grip strength is a big deal for spin rate. The more you're on the seam, you're going to spin the ball better. If you're on the leather, you're not going to be able to spin it as good because your fingers are going to naturally come off that just a little bit more. There's a little bit less grip there. And so that's a factor. And that's why people use the sticky stick, like kind of like literally glue themselves to the leather before, and you could have a bad rip on a pitch and still throw a good pitch. So that was the advantage of the sticky. Yeah, I mean, listen, it was everywhere and it got out of hand. It was literally everywhere. You just go, nobody cares anymore. But if you go back and look at the leaderboard in like early 2021 and in 2020 of spin rate, and it's just so high. And guys were cooking up special concoctions. So I'm assuming Nolan McLean is not using anything like that as I'm answering this question here. If Nolan McLean used Spider Tech, would his stuff get more or less effective? I think it would actually be like a bad thing for him. You have this much natural spin. You don't need to go to like 3,600. I don't know. He has such a good sinker too. Nolan McLean's got like a 2 vertical sinker, so he needs to maintain that. That's an elite pitch. That's something that's separating him. It's not just breaking balls. He's got an elite fastball as well in that sinker. So you don't want the sticky to mess with that. Honestly, the impact of the sticky is a little overblown too. I know that it had gotten out of control because guys got really good at what they would do is if you ever watch like James Karinchak pitch, he would literally like touch his inside of his glove every pitch. So he'd reload it every pitch. It's not like he had like some sticky residue. He had like fresh glue every pitch. So that's creating, for a guy like that, a north-south guy, like, oh, forget it. You're creating so much nastiness. And you have such a level of, it's like almost like using a PED for that style pitcher because then you're like creating like your confidence is just like insane. Like nobody can touch my shit if I throw it over the plate. But it's not the same for East-West guys and everything else. Like like I said, sweeper, did it help me? Of course. But sinker hurt me a lot. So I think I'd rather just be honest about it. And nobody does it anymore anyway. It's all cracked down on. They literally check you. They check your hand. They touch your hand. So until they were going to do that, people were going to cheat. But now I feel like it's a lot less prevalent. And I think now we've also realized that, you can be nasty without it. Like we've learned so much about pitching.